Welcome back inside the High School Huddle, getting set for week 3 of the football season. It's almost crazy. We're just a few weeks away from being halfway done. It goes by so fast.
I told you we would be saying that with
nuts.
just like that.
So crazy. This is the end of non-district week, so all the non-district games, for the most part, will be done. And so district games will be popping up here pretty soon across the state of Oklahoma. So it will be a lot of fun. Coming up here in just a few moments, we'll have our top 10 games of the week. We'll have our new top 5 high school huddle rankings, and we'll have some other topic as well. We'll take a look at some great performances by student athletes as well as some team performances as well. But first, let's bring in our special guest tonight, the head football coach of those Carl Albert Titans, Coach Mike Dunn, as they have a big one this week with the Stillwater Pioneers. Coach, thanks for spending a little bit of time with us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely. Okay, Coach, I'll have the hard-hitting question for you to begin with. Last year, your Titans were 14-0, 8 shutouts, did not allow more than 14 points in a single game, outscored opponents 697-53. Did you play the replay of me picking Collinsville to win the 5A state championship for the motivation for your Titans last year?
Yes, that's what spurned it. All the success was based on that pick early on, so thank you.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah. Now, Coach, thanks for being on. I want to first recognize.
We apologize.
We apologize for Chris.
We apologize.
We were with you the whole year, baby.
Never any doubt.
Thank you, guys.
Never doubted it. Hey, real quick, I just want to acknowledge this. I mean, we talk about this all the time, and I know you're a humble guy, but, man, 5A football, it's all about Carl Albert. It goes through Carl Albert. I know coaches hate it when people say that, but just the incredible program you guys have there at Carl Albert, just congratulations. A lot of respect from all of us. You guys do it right over there.
Well, I appreciate you, and that means a lot coming from you guys, because there's nobody that studies it and talks about it and puts the time in, and the platform you guys have and everything you do. It's unbelievable. You know, I'm good friends with Coach BB, and I tell him all the time, you know, he always talking about film. I'm always telling him, you got the best film crew in all of Oklahoma, and all we got to do, if we want film, we just go watch all 17 angles of little guys. So,
so BB hates that, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It eats him up. That's why I do it.
It does.
Coach, you've had to ask a lot. You've had to answer a lot of questions, the same questions over and over and over. And then Washington loses their win streak, and Tipton loses their win streak. Now you have the 41. Now you have the longest current win streak. It just adds on and on and on. My question: how much? I mean, you have to do so much X's and O's, but being the head coach of Carl Albert, you have to manage so many different things with your kids and with your program. Just talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, what's great is I haven't heard our kids say anything about the win streak. I haven't heard one kid, and I know they probably feel it and they probably know about it. They've seen it, I'm sure, but I have not heard anybody talk about it. I think our coaches do a really good job of keeping the main thing the main thing. And one thing you will never hear if you were to come around Carl Albert, you're never going to hear a coach or a kid talk about going undefeated. It never happens. I've never heard it when I was a player under Coach Rose. I haven't heard it as an assistant when I was here. And then when I came back over here as a head coach, I still have never heard anybody talk about going undefeated, you know? And so I think that kind of keeps it all into perspective for our kids. But, you know, there is a lot of things. And with us being the athletic director in Mid-Del, there's not a whole lot of head football athletic directors left in Oklahoma. So it does make that even the job's a little bit more. But, you know, during football season, I get to be the head football coach and got a lot of good people around me. Our administration is great. You know, Andy Collier's our district AD, and he takes a lot of that off of my plate as well. But, you know, it's when you have great kids like we do at Carl Albert, you know, our kids, they don't expect any different. If we try to make any kind of change to our system or a tweak to a practice, they're always wondering, you know, what's going on. You know, it kind of freaks them out. And so it helps us with being consistent. You know, when we're consistent, our kids are consistent, and it helps me in my job with all the different expectations.
Coach, you mentioned what I think is the legend, the GOAT, Coach Gary Rose of 5A football. He's just, I got to ask this question. Has he cut his hair yet?
Well, he did. He did cut it. So everybody kept talking to him about his hair, and he just said, "I'm going to keep growing it out until people stop talking to me about it." Well, then I think he had a wedding he went to. I can't remember what it was, but he cut his hair, but now it's growing back out. So now it's getting way back down there. So No, he did, but he hasn't. So it's back to he looks like a hippie again.
Well, one thing you mentioned that nobody talks about going undefeated. One thing we've talked about a lot here, been a lot of those 19 state titles that were won with 3 losses, 2 losses, even some that had a few more losses than that. Carl Albert always seems to get ready when it matters, right? Always seems to, when it's time to make the run, you guys always seem to be peaking, doing the right things. Talk about that. I mean, because that's a mindset, right? I mean, how do you keep the kids focused on, as you said, the right things?
Right. Well, I think it starts with consistency. As a football coach, I don't think there's anything that's more important than being consistent, and as a coaching staff. And that's with everything, with your practices, with your expectations, with your off season. And it started back with Coach Rose. The program is very, very, very eerily similar to what it was back when I was playing in 99, 99 through 2001. And since Coach Rose, you've had Coach Corley that took over, who was under Coach Rose for 15, 16 years. And then obviously I have my ties to Carl Albert. And I think as long as somebody's always in this chair that has ties and knows what the program was and is, I think all those things will stay the same, and I really do think it's in the way that you approach it, and obviously you've got to have great kids, but you're 100% right. We've skinned that cat a million different ways. We've done it throwing the ball with, 4 or 5 times a game my sophomore year, to throwing it 4 times in the playoffs total my sophomore year, and our guys do a really good job of fitting our personnel and not being so set in our ways that we're going to just try to pigeonhole our kids. We try to work to their skills, but the things that matter, the culture, the tradition, the program, all of that stays the same. And I think that has helped stay consistent with that.
I think you kind of touched on it just a little bit for me, but when you talk about the culture and the tradition of Carl Albert, I want to go back to a couple of seasons ago. Dale City, you guys played in the state championship game, and the week before, or a couple weeks before that, they beat a Guthrie team who, stats-wise, was one of the best defensive teams maybe Guthrie had at that point, and they absolutely dismantled Guthrie in the playoffs. And then state championship game time comes. Before the show, we all talk about how great of a game it's going to be, and then I got to tell you, Coach, I went down to the field before that game, and you can tell there was a difference. The tradition, the culture. And I could see it. I could see it in your team's eyes. I could see how excited they were to be there, loose, relaxed, ready to go. And no disrespect to Dell City because they had a great team the year, but they just weren't the same group of kids that I saw a couple of times that year. Didn't have the swagger that you guys did. So you guys have that tradition. You have that culture that you have, and not mention the kids. They play for each other. They play for each other. They play for the coaches because we all, especially you guys, we lost Coach Wilkerson last year during the playoffs, which is a big loss for Carl Albert, obviously. But, anybody who grew up loving the Sooners loved Jimmy Wilkerson as well, right? So, but, I mean, this is right before state championship game last year, and it, obviously seeing his Sundowner before the game was just amazing to see that. But talks about that this last couple of years state championship game, just how you guys just can not turn it on, but you guys just have all that confidence in the world.
Right. Well, again, it definitely helps whenever these kids have been in it before. I think that was a lot of the big difference with the Dell City game because, we are feeling the same way when we watched the Guthrie game. We had just played them, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before that, whenever it was. And obviously, we all had our thoughts that was going to be a dogfight. That was going to be a great game. And then, I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk to Coach Beebe after that game. And I know how he felt. He felt like his guys were ready to go, locked in. And he didn't feel like it was a thing where they were just out of it and that they went into it the wrong mindset. He felt really good. And he just flat out said Dell City was better, and they were just really much better that night. And so, we had the same feelings, but during that game, especially during pregame, you could tell our guys, I've sensed the same thing from our guys. Obviously I wasn't on the other end, but I could see it in our guys' eyes that they were ready to go, and it was like business as usual is what it felt like to me. But there's always you can tell when our guys have a certain feel. And it's funny because, here, like I talked about earlier, those traditions, and we've got some special things that we do that start but right after the last district football game. There's some things our kids will say and chant after the game. And then that following week, you can just tell that our kids, they understand those moments. And it felt that way at that game, and then, than last year with what you're talking about with Coach Wilkerson. And, that's the strangest practice I've ever been a part of
Yeah.
the day before, and going through that. We had a meeting just right over here in our media room, and I had to talk to the kids about that. And we went out, and it's the day before the state championship, and so a practice where you want to be excited, you want everybody clicking on all cylinders and everybody fired up, and we had a good practice all considering, but it just was very somber. The mood was somber, the sky was kind of gray, and it,
Yeah.
it was just a very, very strange day. And you know one of the things that I talked to our kids about was that we knew what Coach Wilkerson would want, and we knew that we had business at hand and we needed to take care of business. And that following week we'd go lay him to rest. But it's a testament to our kids. It really is. Our kids, that they feel like whenever they step on the field, they can win a game. It doesn't matter who they're playing against. I think they trust that they've been prepared to go out and go be successful. And that's half the battle, when your guys feel like they can win, and when they go out and they feel like they've been prepared, and coaches and players are on the same page. And our kids in these last two state championship games, they've been really, really dialed in against two really, really good football teams.
Speaking with the head football coach of the Carl Albert Titans, Coach Mike Dunn, his team got a big game this week with the Stillwater Pioneers. Coach, talk about Class 5A overall. Of course, you're on top of the mountain right now. Guthrie has been in the state championship game last year. Over the years, they've been good. But, you have Booker T. Washington in the middle of Tulsa. You have Pryor. Shawnee's coming on with Coach Madonna. You know him well. Lawton Mack is good year in and year out. Bishop McGinnis is getting better and better. Newcastle has jumped up to 5A. Collinsville has been in the mix. Just talk about Class 5A as you see it.
Yeah, I feel like it's really wide open. Last year I felt like there was a lot of talk about, that it was a two-team race, and obviously we know better, and we knew Guthrie was going to be young, and that Guthrie was replacing a historic defense, and a really good quarterback that'd been a 3-year starter on offense, and so. But we knew better. We knew that Guthrie was going to be right there in the mix when it was all said and done. We knew that Booker T had gotten better, and they were going to be somebody to watch in the end. And then we had scrimmaged Newcastle, so we knew that Newcastle was going to be right there when it was all said and done. So last year I feel like it was a little more wide open than people thought, but this year I really feel like there are 5 or 6 teams up there, and I'm probably discounting a couple, but there are 5 or 6 teams up there that people would say are, top of 5A, that I think there's a lot of places where people are evenly matched. I've got to see Lawton Mack. They came over here for a scrimmage, and like they passed the eyeball test. They're doing some things defensively that are really, really good. Obviously, having a 3-year starter at quarterback is going to help them always. And then the studs they have roaming around back there, and now they're playing some receiver too. So, and Guthrie's got a lot back. I think Guthrie will be right there in the mix again, just like they always are. You talked about Booker T. I saw a little bit of Booker T in Del City, and I think a lot of people wrote Del City off after that Memorial game, but it was just kind of a bad start on their part, and they're going to be just fine. So I really do. I think it's going to be wide open. I don't get to see enough from the East until we get a little bit closer to the playoffs. So I've heard that Pryor is kind of a dark horse. I know, Andy Collier, our district AD, he's watched some video on them, and he thinks they're a really good football team. So I imagine when it's all said and done, it'll be some of those same guys, usual suspects, and then I think we're going to be surprised by some guys that haven't done it last couple of years, and so I think it'll be a lot of fun.
By the way, you've mentioned Andy Collier twice now. By the way, he's the last quarterback to lead the big school to a state championship, Midwest City Bombers. So just a little thing in there. Yeah. You brought it up a little bit earlier. You don't get to watch much high school football outside of what you do. Do you get to watch 6A or 4A or 3A? I mean, as a head coach, do you have time for that?
Yeah, so I would honestly, I watch more high school football than I do college football than I do. I really don't watch NFL at all, and college football I'll watch a little bit here and there. Jeff Levy is one of my good buddies, and he's at Mississippi State now, and so I kind of follow anywhere he's ever been. I kind of follow them, but even he knows that that I'm never going to be just really dialed in with it. But so Friday nights, especially when we're off, but I've kind of got a routine. As soon as I come in after a football game, a lot of times go straight to the Ronnie and the Kelly Beebe interview. It's one of my favorite things to do right after every single game is go watch a little bit of the interview there. And then I'll kind of click around and I'll go through all the different little address bar I have up there on my computer and go click around and kind of watch some stuff. But so I do watch a little bit of everything. I've got friends all over the state and I like to go see what they're doing. I never get through a whole game, but I'll at least watch a little bit.
You know, you talked about Coach Kelly Beebe here in Guthrie. You know, it doesn't surprise me. I know you guys are tight, but that doesn't surprise me. But let me ask you this, Coach. Have you ever met anybody really like Kelly Beebe?
No,
such thing. He is just
one of one.
You know exactly what you're going to get with Coach Beebe. I mean, I love it. He's been here forever. Of course, a highly successful defensive coordinator. I think from a defensive schematic and just how he coaches kids, I always say this, I think he's the best I've ever seen in high school football. I think he's just amazing defensively. And, you know, to watch him grow as a head coach the last several years has been really a cool thing for us that know him well. But we are blessed in Guthrie to have what I think not only a really good football coach, but one of the most unique football coaches you'll ever meet in today's game. Just completely. Right. You always say throwback. He is a throwback.
He's a throwback. And when I think about Guthrie, the first thing I think about is how they have the perfect head coach for them. I mean, they match his style. They're a lot of times you can tell a team that they take on the personality of their head coach, and there's no doubt about it that every year Guthrie, I mean, you know, you're going to be in a dogfight, you know, you're going to, but you know, one thing that I love about it is as much as our two teams want to beat each other, when you watch those games, you don't see a bunch of nonsense. Nope. You don't see a bunch of BS with the teams. You don't see pushing and shoving and fighting. A lot of times when teams play us, you see teams that try to do that with us, but with us in Guthrie, there's none of that back and forth. And that's one of the things that I really like about it. And that's when you know you're in a really good rivalry is when there's a lot of healthy respect there too, you know, and I think that starts with probably me and Coach Beebe and how we feel about each other. And I know he knows that we respect his staff. They respect us. We know a lot about each other. We joke all the time, you know, I'll call him and say, you know, just drop some line, especially the week before we play, something about, well, you know, quarterback got hurt, so we're going to be flex bone this week, and and which he loves to defend the flex bone, as you guys very well know. But but he'll say something back about, no, I imagine you guys will be in 11 personnel, and you're going to do this, and this. He said, just like I imagine we're going to be in our Okie, and we're going to play man coverage. So it's all good stuff. It's a lot of fun.
We're going to talk about the Stillwater Pioneers here in just a few seconds, and we can talk to you for 2 hours if we want to. We want to keep you all night, but Carlsbad's had great players over the years, and some on the next level, and now in the NFL as well. So it's you share a lot of that stuff on your Twitter page, but you've had great defensive linemen, but from what I'm hearing, the defensive linemen in your program are on the rise, and I've heard there's some young bucks that are coming up, and so that's one thing. I can think of a few players that were just like studs, but it sounds like you might have quite a few coming up here that are studs.
Yeah, we've got the 4 that are returning from this past team that are all, I mean, they're hell on wheels. They're maniacs. The 2 defensive ends, they play as hard and fast and physical as anybody I've ever coached, and they're fun to watch, and those 2 inside guys that get a great push every single snap, Caithan Perucci and Nick Hill, they're as fun to watch play the game as anybody that I've ever seen, especially on the high school level. They're just nonstop, and it's just fun watching the way they affect the game. But we've got a healthy stable of guys behind them too. We've got a freshman group of defensive linemen that are going to be really, really good. Jax Wilkerson is a guy that is getting lots of attention on the offensive side of the ball as a young left tackle, but he plays a little bit of defensive line for us. But, we've got a kid named Bryson Bell, a kid named Corbin Penley that are both going to be really, really good players that are freshmen. Wyatt Cordray is a guy that we're really excited about. He's kind of more of an edge type backer, but could be a defensive end type guy, maybe a stand-up type guy. But, and then we've got a couple of sophomore defensive ends, a couple of bookends that, we're replacing. We'll have to replace one after this year, but, we've got a couple young guys, Emmanuel Williams, and Armonte Abraham that both are have a chance to be really good, and so and then defensive tackle we've got really three juniors right now that are all really really good, and then we've got the two seniors. But Jaden Shelley is a backup defensive tackle that's doing really good things. Adric Walker is a guy that I played against his dad in high school. He was a Douglas Trojan back when we were big rivals with them when I was in school. But we've got a pretty healthy stable there, and it's been pretty exciting to watch the growth.
Got Stillwater Pioneers this week, and Coach, it's a deep. You go against Piedmont, you see an offense like, well, this is different. We got to really concentrate on this. Stillwater's defense is similar to that. They stand up. It looks different. It's something you won't ever see again unless you play Stillwater again. Talk about that Stillwater defense.
Yeah, chaotic.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. They want to cause havoc. They want to cause chaos and confusion with your line. It's funny because I've talked a lot of football with Clarence Hawley, and Clarence Hawley is the one that started that defense, and he's the one that installed it there at Stillwater. But Coach Hawley, I'll never forget when he said our main goal is to turn the opponent's offense against the game of football. And so we make sure that we tell our guys, hey, this is the goal. So you better go match the physicality, because if you don't, that is their goal, is to turn you against the game of football. And it's they're going to make plays. They're going to get you in the backfield at times. And I was just telling our guys today, it's going to be about the response. How are you going to respond when they do hit you for a negative play? How are you going to respond if they make a big play on defense, talking to our offense? And, I know Coach K Wood's talking to them about the same things, but it's so unique because you're right, and most of the time you're talking about that, and it's an offensive thing. Like you said, it's because you're playing a triple option team, or you're playing, when I was in Texas coaching, I was in South Texas for a while. It was slot T down there. But with this defense, we're not going to see anything like it again. So you prepare for it once, and then you put it back in your back pocket until next season. But last year, I feel like our practices, we've kind of figured it out a little bit better and tried to simulate it in practice. Doesn't mean it's the right look always, but I feel like we simulated it a little bit better this year. But Stillwater is a really good football team and do a lot of good things, well coached. I feel like they're very similar to us in a lot of ways.
Well, and it's a great running back matchup with your guy and Jaden Adams, a sophomore. He's a state champion wrestler. We bragged on your defensive line. They'll have a huge challenge. They went 248 yards on 25 carries against Union. So you guys will be challenged with them offensively.
Yes. Yeah. So Jaden Adams, he's a stud. He played a little bit against us last year as a freshman. They've got the two outside guys that open that run game up for them with Deacon Jones and David Thomas are the two receivers. They've got a sophomore quarterback that's really good, and they've got a sophomore H fullback type guy that they use, who is it's actually Charlie Johnson, their offensive line coach. It's his son. Offensive line wise, they're always going to be well coached. Coach Johnson does as good a job as anybody out there. They're always going to be gigantic. I mean, they look bigger every single year, it seems like to me, but they're really good. They're really good at what they do. They're very efficient, and they go really, really fast, and so they're going to try to put you in conflict by not letting you get calls in. They're going to try to get lined up fast and take the defensive coordinator out of the game as much as possible. And they do a really good job of it. So it'll be a big challenge for our defense, especially with us breaking in an entire new back end. We got 7 new guys in the back end on defense. And so it's really the first true test that they've had at a team that is very multiple, that can do it in the air and that can do it on the ground. So it'll be a really good test for our young back end.
Yeah, we're definitely really excited for that matchup this weekend. You'll check in later to see who Phil picks, Coach. But
I love you, Coach.
No pressure. No pressure, Phil.
But I hate to ask coaches to look ahead, but so I'm gonna have you look back. So Carl Albert won state championship last year. Let's just say I think it was December 5th, something like that. One of those days. We'll say it's December 5th. Okay, Carl Albert wins their 19th state championship. As they're going home, I always get on Twitter because I'm waiting for the post for them to change it from 18 to 19.
Right.
The video, I just love that. I think it's great.
Right.
But winning on December 5th, when does Carl Albert football start preparing for this season? Is it December 6th, or is it December 7th, or is it January 1st?
Right. It's funny because I'm looking over here at a ball that I have, but I remembered exactly when it was, because in years past it was always December 5th, December 4th, somewhere around there. we would take a week off. And then the week before Christmas break, that's when we started our maxing. We would max out. So we'd take 1 week off.
Yeah.
We would max out. And then by the time we got back on that Christmas break after that Tuesday or Wednesday, we already had cards printed and we were already in the first phase of off season. But last year it was December 14th. Remember, because 5A was the very last game.
That's right.
And so we were the very last game on that Saturday night. And so that next week we took that week off to do all the fun stuff you get to do after a championship. And then when we got back, that's when we maxed out the very first week after we got back from Christmas break. So we don't waste a lot of time. It's just never been a thing. That's how Coach Rose was, and it was even quicker. If we got beat out of the playoffs before that, if we didn't make it to the state championship, Coach Rose he'd give us about 2 days, and then it was we're moving on. It's time to get ready for next year. Yep. So it's just kind of always been a thing around here. Kids, it's what they expect.
That's why you guys are the program you are, Coach, doing those kind of things and the mentality and the mindset. I mean, everything in life that leads to success, it's about mindset, right?
No question. Yeah, we talk a lot about it, and our kids know that it's all about how you respond to adversity, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen this year. It's going to happen this week, and we'll see how we go and take that test.
We didn't even get to talk about 2020 vision or the successful bond issue that you guys have. You got a lot of momentum on and off the field. Yep. I will leave you with this. You do have a current 91.3% winning percentage. Corley's 91.2, so no pressure added on to you this week as well. So.
Wow. Hey, we told our kids today, pressure is a privilege.
That's right.
Absolutely right.
Hey, I'll say this. Coach Corley did that on purpose. He knew when he retired, he got out of there when he was the highest winning percentage as a head coach.
We laughed about that when of course, we know, those of us here, his brother was a longtime judge up in our community,
sir.
And we'd go have lunch with Judge Corley on a pretty regular basis on Fridays. And when he announced that he was stepping away from coaching, I said, "You got a smart brother, baby." I mean,
right. You talk about going out on top. Yeah, he went out on top of the mountain. There's no doubt about it.
That's right.
He's a smart man. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he is.
Well, Coach Dunn, we always appreciate you spending some time with us. Hopefully you can do it at least one more time this season, and we'll see you in a few weeks. I don't know if you're going to have steaks or ribs for us when we come to town, but we appreciate no matter what you have for us in town.
Hey, I can promise you this. Jared LeClaire, so our offensive center, his dad is the guy that takes care of all of our people coming in, the other teams, media, live stream. He will have something good for you guys. I can promise you.
We love it. We love it.
Coach Dunn, best of luck
Thanks,
against
Coach Dunn.
Stillwater this week and in the entire season as you go for 4 in a row. Amazing. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you guys. You guys have a good season too.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Coach.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
appreciate
Head coach Mike Dunn of the Carl Albert Titans, as they have the state's longest winning streak at 41 games. They go for 4 state championships. They go for the longest or the most state championships in Oklahoma football history, as they're tied with Ada at 19 right now. So they had huge bond success as well. So a lot of great things happening.
Everything happened. You talked to, of course, we were fortunate. We got to know Coach Rose very well and Coach Corley and now Coach Dunn. You want to know why they have consistency is because they have people like that leading their program. I mean, just do it the right way.
Absolutely. We appreciate Coach Dunn. We're going to take our time out here on the High School Huddle presented by Red River Roofing. When we come back, take a look at some of the games last week, and we got some games to look forward to as well. Top 10 games of the week, your predictions, and the High School Huddle's top 5. Still a whole much more to go here on the High School Huddle.